Hey guys, Lively here. I create and maintain a mod list for Fallout 4 called Magnum Opus. Today I'm here to take you on a deep dive of our largely custom crafting system so you can learn how to utilize it to the best of your ability. This video will be a little bit more technical than previous ones, so I hope you don't mind that, but it's the best way to explain these things. One of the most common questions I get is, "Hey Lively, how do I craft this thing? I don't see it in the chemistry bench." To understand why this is asked so often, we have to understand something about unmodded Fallout 4. Without mods, there are a number of workbenches, but almost all of them are only for editing existing objects, such as adding new receivers or adding armor upgrades, things like that. The only two workbenches in vanilla that create new objects from nothing are the chemistry station and the cooking station. Many years ago, for whatever reason, the modding community generally gravitated towards dumping all their construction recipes into the chemistry station, something which has long stuck in the minds of mod users and are just kinda used to looking in the chem lab to craft new things. I really don't like this setup. It's messy and it's confusing. In Magnum Opus, we use a mod called Whisper Standalone Workbenches, which adds about a dozen custom-made crafting stations where we can distribute our various recipes. So, armors go in the Armorsmith bench, weapons into the Weaponsmith workbench, clothing into the Clothing workbench, and so on. There are a few benches we don't use, simply because we really don't need them or have recipes that would logically make sense there. So let's just take a look at the benches we do use. Let's start with the Weaponsmith workbench, since that's the one I think people are probably the most interested in. You might notice at early levels, you won't be able to craft much of anything here. This is in stark contrast to what you might read on various mod pages for the weapons in Opus, but I assure you this is intentional. I like the feeling of progression as you level up. When it comes to weapons, they are primarily gated behind a combination of perks and level requirements. If you're familiar with this game, you're probably asking, why perks and levels when perks already require certain levels to obtain? Which is an excellent question, random person, so let's dive into the technical bits of that. For this example, we will be looking at the AK-400 and the conditions for crafting that particular weapon. If we open the constructible object record for the weapon, which is pretty easy to find if you just go to the weapon, click the reference by tab, and select the record with the COBJ signature, this will jump you to the constructible object record. These are pretty simple to read, but right now we're only concerned with the conditions, of which there are two. One says subject has perk Gun Nut 03, which is rank 3, and the other has subject get level is greater than or equal to 20. But if we expand Gun Nut rank 3, we can see that this perk requires the player to be level 25. So what's the point of having that subject get level is greater than or equal to 20? The fact is that all this line does is hide the recipe from the workbench until the player hits level 20. This way you don't open the game, go to the workbench, and see all these weapons here that you're not going to be able to craft for a really long time. Instead, you'll only see this come up after you hit level 20, so that you can say to yourself, this weapon looks cool, I should save up and invest in Gun Nut rank 3 so that I can craft this weapon later. That's the logic behind having perks and level requirements. Now that we understand how the Weaponsmith workbench operates, let's have a look at the Clothing and Armorsmith workbenches. These two operate in pretty much identical ways. Instead of having crafting recipes gated behind perks and levels, these mostly unlock based on quest progression. So if, for example, you want to craft some Courser gear, you need to go kill a Courser in the Hunter Hunted quest. If you want to grab yourself a Brotherhood of Steel outfit, you better go join the Brotherhood. These should all be pretty logical, so if you see an outfit you want, consider who wears it and make a pretty basic deduction. Odds are you'll be right on the money. Next up is one of the most important and most divisive workbenches in Magnum Opus, the Ammunition workbench. Ammunition crafting can potentially be extremely important in this mod list. A lot of ammo drop rates are reduced, but that doesn't mean you need to struggle for bullets all the time. Crafting rounds is probably the best way to mitigate this problem. The Scrapper perk plays a huge role in this, which is why it's mentioned as one of the most important perks to get in my other video about the 5 best perks in Magnum Opus. With Scrapper, you can use the Ammunition workbench to break down ammo types you don't want, or types you have excessive amounts of. Doing so will net you some materials, like gunpowder and copper. These components will in turn help you craft the ammo you do want, essentially allowing you to swap from one ammo to another. But it's not a one-to-one swap, that would be too easy. Ammo breakdown doesn't net you any aluminum, so you'll need to find that on your own. This is most easily obtained through purchasing shipments, breaking down weapons, or maybe by visiting a certain legendary fish packing plant. The last workbench that I feel requires some explanation is the engineering workbench. This one is where you want to go if you need to repair your power armor. Magnum Opus uses something called power armor repair kits. Something I noticed about vanilla Fallout 4 is that there are a lot of power armor stations out in the world, but I honestly never use them, mainly because I typically didn't have the exact types of junk and components I needed to repair my armor in the moment. With the repair kit system, we can craft as many kits as we want to repair our armor on the go, making these stations actually usable out in the wild now. They do come at a bit of a steep cost though, requiring Armor 2 and Science 1 in most cases. It's worth it though, since power armor makes you nearly invulnerable to all damage unless it's broken, and grants complete immunity to radiation as long as your entire suit remains intact. Craft these kits in bulk to make sure you can always repair your armor pieces while you're cruising through the Commonwealth. The remainder of the workbenches play much smaller roles, so we can cover them a bit more quickly, starting with the electronics workbench. You won't find much here aside from a few specific bits from a couple of mods. You'll most likely be using this to make robot repair kits if you're into that sort of thing, and maybe an ammo switcher. All in all, not something you need to worry too much about. The explosive workbench is, surprise surprise, where you'll go to craft various explosives, like grenades, landmines, explosive ordnance, things of that nature. Pretty self-explanatory, and best if you just check it out for yourself. One last notable workbench is the utility workbench. This one has some really cool things in it, the first of which is the portable junk recycler. You may have seen me mention it in my previous video about 3 useful gameplay tips for Magnum Opus, but if you missed that one, this device allows you to break down all your junk items into their base components. Another item here is the PA flare gun, which you'll have to finish the Call to Arms quest for the Brotherhood of Steel to unlock. This is used for power armor airdrop, which you can read more about in the terminal at Cambridge Police Department, up on the roof. Some other useful items are the Packed Logistics Desk and the Settlement Creation Kit, both of which are designed to make it much easier to set up new settlements. With these, you won't have to worry about carrying enough junk items with you to build a few starter pieces. You can just plop these bad boys down and the job is already half done. And yes, I also just now noticed there are 3 utility entries here, so I'll have to fix that. But that's a job for later. For now, I think we'll call it here. I hope this helped you learn more about our crafting setup in Magnum Opus, and lets you experience the game in a more complete way. Thanks for watching, thank you so much to all my Patreon donors, and I hope you all have a great day. Happy modding!